Hey everyone, welcome to Ancient Portals. I'm LaFonso Woods, and today's topic will be about newly found fossil and water erosion evidence that indicates that the three pyramids and the Sphinx in Egypt were once covered by seawater and are at least 12,000 years old. This is major information that literally changes human history. The information we're about to drop on you this episode, you may need to watch this video about 2 or 3 times just to absorb all this information. Researchers have found a 14-foot silt line on all 3 pyramids. A silt line represents what once was the bottom of a body of water. In settlement within the silt line, researchers found marine fossils and seashells. These fossils were carbon dated, and it was shown that they are nearly 12,000 years old. Not to be confused with fossils that are found within the limestone blocks that are shown to be 30 million years old. It's very important to draw this difference because this will be the biggest pushback that researchers and the scientists will face about this new evidence. It has to be understood that the fossils carbon dated are found within the sediment of the 14-foot silt line and not the limestone blocks that make up the pyramids, in which those fossils have been found to be 30 million years old. Now, the researchers found a magnificent sea urchin, and it was located on the pyramid of Menkaure, which is the smallest of the 3 pyramids. As you can see from the picture, this fossil is in pristine condition, which means that it formed and petrified in more recent times. The location of the fossil on the pyramid means that the sea urchin lived its life and died on the pyramid, which proves that the structures were all covered by seawater at one time. Now, Egypt has not had significant rainfall since 5000 BCE, and water erosion found on the 3 pyramids and the Sphinx has the age put at least 10,000 years ago. That's what they've pretty much found so far. Now, however, the newly found carbon dated sea fossils pushes that date back to 12,000 years old, which destroys that old narrative. We've been told that the pyramids are only 4,500 years old. This changes human history in a way that is unavoidable. This information proves that all 4 structures were standing prior to the Great Flood and were covered in seawater. Now, the information I'm going to read is directly from the Gigal Research Group. They are Egyptian researchers who made the discovery, and the information will be directly from Antoine, Gigal, and Sherif Morsi. This information was their official press release directly from the researchers themselves. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind is whenever you hear them mention Khafre, pyramid or temple, that represents the 2nd largest pyramid of the 3 on Giza. And whenever they mention Menkaure, temple or pyramid, that's the smallest of the 3. All right. And now I'm going to read to you information directly from these researchers. Now, this is a text that was released by Antoine, Gigal, and Sherif Morsi. A convincing clue proving that the Giza plateau was once covered by the sea is being studied, along with other evidence of erosion due to saturation by deep water of the surface of the plateau. An arachnoid, which is a type of sea urchin or shallow marine creature, petrified in recent times, has been found embedded upright in the upper surface of a block adjoining the Menkaure pyramid and within the ancient intertidal range. This is a splendid discovery by an Egyptian researcher. Now, the next information is from Antoine Gigal. I'm very proud to present to you a first report on the splendid discovery by Mr. Sherif El Morsi for several reasons. First, because it is only the beginning of seriously questioning dating and other data which has been wrong for years, and because this is very thorough work based on proofs that become stronger every day. It is time for science to get its message across. I'm very happy also that this is an Egyptian discovery because Egyptian researchers and scientists well deserve it. A more personal reason is that for the last 20 years now, I've also been collecting evidence of sea erosion due to deep water saturation on the Giza plateau. My own theory, which was already published in France in 2007, is that the last great flood, and no doubt others before it, came up the Giza plateau, and that the ancient Egyptians, with their incomparable skills, adapted the plateau from the beginning in order to protect their population and their science beneath it. All right. And the next information is directly from Sherif El Morsi. I spent the past 12 years doing on-site research in the Giza necropolis. My research has brought some important discoveries, such as a Neolithic honeycomb community of cavern dwellers on the Great Pyramid Eastern Encampment. The megalithic ramp used for hauling granite blocks up the encampment to be used in the construction of the King's Chamber. And just recently, the different extensive erosion patterns found on different elevations in the Giza Plateau within existing ancient shoreline. I like to thank Miss Antoine Gigal for the honorable invitation to put on her prestigious board my following work. I am following the footsteps of the renowned geologist Dr. Shosh and the great writer-journalist Graham Hancock by expanding their theory that is based on erosion patterns found on the Sphinx body due to water erosion. I have found that the extensive erosion patterns at the lower elevations on the plateau are different to the erosion patterns found at higher elevations. These erosion patterns are due to the necropolis indentation by water. The indentation of water reaches a maximum of 75 meters over our current sea level, creating a shoreline at the Khafra enclosure that spans all the way across the Menkaure temple. This shoreline is a 2-meter high intertidal range and showing pitting and tidal notches due to seawater. Water mechanics and tidal ebbing at the lower levels, such as the Sphinx temple, the first 20 courses of the Great Pyramid, including the boat pits. We see erosion due to the deeper water saturation, where the stone blocks and wall linings have absorbed seawater. As the water receded in a dry, sunny wind climate took place. These megalithic stone blocks started weathering, creating tophaning erosions, which are due to the salt chemically reacting and flaking the limestone with pitting formations. During a catastrophic sea surge and the forthcoming water regression, we clearly observe at a certain area, such as corners, outlets, trenches, horizontal indentures due to water force gushing and turbulence. On the top temple blocks, we have settlement and alluvium deposits that have collected on the flat surfaces, such as seen in shallow seabeds and lagoons, creating an oozing, sponging effect due to the water's regression that left these deposits. Okay. In Talaphony pitting, due to seawater saturation on the Great Pyramid, first coarse polished facing stones, the large taphoning pitting seen on the top of the block takes millennium to reach this size, plus another few millenniums of wind abrasion to smooth them down to nearly non-existence. A 25 centimeter loss of surface limestone due to this type of erosion can be calculated by the 10,000s of years. The Great Southeastern boat pit showing the horizontal indentures due to water turbulence from gushing forces during the sea surge and regression. Talaphony pittings on the sides have been weathered by the wind during millenniums. The Khafra South West Corner core stones. This is an outlet into the southern desert plain from the Khafra enclosure where water turbulence and powerful gushing forces accentuated at corners and bottlenecks, creating these horizontal indentures during the sea surge and regression. The water hitting while entering and exiting at this corner must have created whirlpool turbulence and gushing forces. Okay, the top block on the Sphinx temple, showing extensive Talaphony pitting and grainy flood settlement and alluvium deposits that have accumulated and oozed off the top surface of the temple block, left by the eventual sea regression. This erosion pattern is unique to Giza and shows its pre-ancient age. Reaching the maximum level of the indentation, which is 75 meters over our current sea level, we see a different type of an erosion. This is due to wave mechanics and tidal ebbing that has created a 2-meter high ancient intertidal range. This ancient shoreline spans from the Khafra enclosure up to the Menkaure temple, where the rock-hewn cliffs plus the temple blocks are all extensively eroded with tidal notches and extensive pitting. The erosions are so extensive that most blocks are nearly dilapidated out of existence, losing block mass and disfigured into grotesque shapes. This configuration is due to wave hitting sea spray and shallow marine habitation. Okay. Now, during my photo shoot of this ancient shoreline, I nearly tripped off a second level temple block. To my surprise, the bulge on the top surface of the block that nearly made me trip was a petrified exoskeleton of what seemed to be an arachnoid sea urchin, which is a shallow sea marine creature. The coincidence to discover a petrified shallow marine creature laying on the top surface of a temple block that sits right under the ancient intertidal range is a blessing. This is probably the most absolute proof that the Giza necropolis was inundated by a sea surge. The petrified arachnoid and the dilapidated temple block standing together, creating for us such a solid picture of an ancient lagoon that once existed at the Mankura temple during a high sea that inundated the necropolis. We can see the petrified exoskeleton of this arachnoid, or shallow marine creature, laying gravitationally flat on the top surface of the megalith temple block. The top surface of this block seems to be covered by lagoon settlements and alluvial sands that have cemented to it due to the forthcoming hot, dry climate. After the seawater regression, in the background, we can clearly see a top megalith temple block that has lost half its mass and disfigured due to seawater spray, wave mechanics, and marine habitat. Both block and the petrified arachnoid are 75 meters over our current sea level, where a 2-meter high intertidal range spans from the Khafra enclosure of the Mankara temple. Both temple blocks are petrified arachnoid, are existing in this intertidal range. Since the Mokattam limestone is formed out of minuscule fragmented marine shells such as nomulites and arachnoids that date back to Eocene epoch, which is 30 million years old. Geologists and archaeologists are debunking this discovery, believing that this petrified marine creature was eroded out of the limestone block. I disagree due to these forthcoming points. First, this petrified marine creature exoskeleton is in pristine condition with minute details of the shell perforating, showing clearly that it must have been existing from a much later date, such as the Pleistocene or early Holocene periods. Second, this petrified creature is laying gravitational flat in its natural sitting position on the surface of this temple block. Third, it is living in its natural environment, which is in the intertidal range in a shallow lagoon with seabed settlement. Fourth, it is not a minuscule fragment, like most shells that make the limestone formation, but a large entire specimen. All right. We can clearly see the pristine condition and minute details of the exoskeleton perforation, which means that this marine creature must have petrified from recent times. It is not a body fossil, as most fossils are that date back to 30 million years, but petrified by the sediment deposits that have filled this hollow. Right? In the upcoming image, we can clearly see the petrified shallow marine creature sitting normally on the flat surface of the second level temple block, protruding 6 centimeters over the surface. In the background, we have another perspective of the third level temple block that makes these gargantuan temple walls and are part of the 2-meter high intertidal range that spans all the way to the Khafra enclosure. These blocks are extensively eroded, showing intertidal notches that are due to wave mechanics and sea spray. The arachnoid sea urchin or shallow marine creature has petrified in its habitat, which is a shallow lagoon that existed during the indentation of the Menkaure temple. The sea surge must have sustained this 75-meter over our current sea level for quite a few centuries due to the amount of settlement and alluvium deposits that lay on the temple block surface. For an arachnoid to reach the size of 8 centimeters diameter takes at least 15 years of life. The extensive intertidal erosion seen on the blocks also takes centuries. We can clearly observe the crack on the top of the petrified marine creature. This crack could have been due to a catastrophic regression in which the opening was filled with sediment and alluvium, such as deposited on the temple block surface. Petrification equates to sedimentation, where the sediments harden with time, keeping the organism in its intact form. One can clearly see the cementated sediments in the petrified exoskeleton, which has kept its thick calcite shell and a calcite shell form, and looks like it could be peeled off. Now, the next picture you see is of the Menkaure pyramid with its front lost blocks by the flood. And you can see those blocks kind of scattered away. Those blocks that you're looking at one time were a part of the pyramid. And the next picture is a closer view of the Menkaure pyramid with its front lost blocks. And according to the scientists, this was caused by a flood. Now, the next picture you're looking at is it shows some boat pit erosion. And that's water erosion. Now, the next picture is the east side boat pit, and you're looking at water erosion. And this next picture is sea and wind erosion between the Khafra and Menkaure pyramid, and that's showing you some sea and wind erosion. All right. Okay, guys. This basically changes human history. We now know that the pyramids and the Sphinx are at least 12,000 years old. I want to take a moment to say, if you need to better absorb this information, watch it 2 or 3 times. I believe it's safe to say we can put to bed the previous time frame that was believed to be the construction time of these pyramids. I encourage you to do more research into this topic and this evidence. I encourage you to spread this information, share it, and create memes, because this is scientific fact. that changes things in a way that is unavoidable. You can connect some dots with this new information directly to the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. The Emerald Tablets of Thoth are said to be 36,000-year-old tablets with words from an Anunnaki Atlantean named Thoth. In his words, Thoth says he is the creator of the Great Pyramid. Thoth claims that he hid a hall of records underneath the Great Pyramid and underneath the Sphinx. I encourage you to research the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. I want to thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe, click like, click share. I'm Alfonso Woods, Ancient Portals, out.